Kakashi is one of the most important and influential characters in the entire Naruto franchise. That goes without saying. As the first and primary teacher of the main protagonist, as well as the main antagonist, Kakashi has a lot of connections. But not only does he have connections to Naruto and Sasuke, but also within the Akatsuki, due to his connection to Obito Uchiha. So Kakashi is an even more important character than we sometimes give him credit for. A lot of things can change with Kakashi, so the question is, what changes if Kakashi goes back in time and relives every moment of his life with the knowledge of what happens? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. You know, things don't always happen as you expect them to. Sometimes things change and you can't help it. Life is like an ocean, full of waves and wind that push you in all manner of directions. And you're just the captain of a little tender box without a wheel. Sometimes you try to fight the waves, but in most cases you end up just trying to survive them. Then the storms come and you feel like you're going to drown, but someone's looking out for you, so you come out of it okay. Then you see the light, the shore, and you see everything's on easy street now. That was how Kakashi had viewed his life all the way up until his dying breath. Laying there in a bed, he didn't seem too much different than he had been. His hair still white, face still covered by a mask. The only real difference was that he now had deeper crow's feet around his eyes. Those beautiful marks. Many people hated crow's feet because they believed it made them look old. Not Kakashi. Each one he loved because it was physical proof that he had lived a good and happy life. These marks were proof of continual smiles, so many smiles that his face bore permanent scars to tell the story of every good moment. And now, those moments had reached their conclusion. The curtains were being drawn. He had resisted old age for a long time. He had fought it off for a long time, but some things just happen. Another momentary bolt of lightning from the storm he weathered struck him from the shore. One single word: cancer. It was terminal, and had long since reached the final stage before they even knew about it. But what was Kakashi to say? He was sorry? No, he was 89 years old, and as he looked back on his life, he knew that he had expected to die before 40 due to the wars he had fought in. But he didn't cry, nor was he sad or upset. He had lived twice as long as he had expected, and he had lived a happy life full of many joys, accomplishments, and left behind a lasting mark. A legacy for the future that would tell the world that he existed. From this moment on, his face would always look over the village he so loved, and he would never be forgotten. Looking back, the question always arose: what if you could change something? Would you? The natural response was no. He did not want to change anything. He wouldn't. But the thoughts remained. He had seen a lot of death in his time, and he had seen many a loved one pass before him into the place that waited beyond this world, and much of it was preventable. Now, looking around, Kakashi saw the faces of those he still had. Naruto sat nearby, his own hair bleached white, his face bearing the same smiles that sometimes reminded Kakashi of Hiruzen. Sasuke was a year older and had begun to look like Madara had in the years just before his bequeathing of his dream to Obito. Sakura, on the other hand, hardly looked a day over 40, despite being only 8 months younger than her husband. Despite that, she had allowed herself to age gracefully. This was a gift, a skill passed on to her by Tsunade, God rest her soul. Sakura had always been slightly vain, but she allowed herself to age enough to not shock others who saw her and Sasuke together. Kakashi looked around at them all and began to think about how much he would have loved to have some others here. Imagining what it would have been like to have Obito and Rin here, though maybe they were and Kakashi just couldn't see it. He spoke. You know, of all the battles I ever fought, this was the hardest. A battle that requires more will than the entire 4th Shinobi World War. I have a new respect for the warriors who must fight their own bodies rather than some distant enemy. Sakura put her hand on Kakashi's, a tear running down her cheek. I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei. I tried everything I could. He turned to look at her. It's okay. I understand, Sakura. This is just fate. This is what is supposed to happen, and honestly, it's a more peaceful ending than I feel I deserve. I am truly blessed. As Kakashi took a deep breath in, he didn't feel pain or fear, but instead peace. The sun was setting upon him. He looked out the window toward the Hokage Rock, at not only the 7th face to grace it, but also the 8th and 9th as well. As he sat there and looked out over them, he felt a peace come upon him, knowing that the future was secure with the next generation, and that they were both willing and able. Knowing his time was coming to a close, Kakashi gave to each of them his final goodbyes, and then offered a smile. He then breathed his last. In but a moment, there was a flash and a laugh. A man with purple skin, and instead of passing on to heaven, Kakashi seemed to move back to Earth in a very dizzying way. And in that moment, nothing seemed different. Nothing until suddenly he became conscious in the middle of a classroom. Huh? Kakashi questioned as he sat there, looking at the paper before him. His mind was trying to process things. It was as if he had been transported straight back to this moment, yet memories became vivid to him. He hadn't been teleported back to this moment, but instead he'd been teleported back to the moment of his birth, and aged naturally to this moment, where suddenly all of his memories unlocked. It was hard to explain, but that's what Kakashi had thought was happening to him. He may have understood what happened, at least to some degree, but why had it happened to him? That was a new mystery altogether. Kakashi looked around, then heard the teacher call out to him. "Kakashi, are you okay? You seem confused. Did I say something you didn't understand?" "Huh? Oh, I accidentally started daydreaming. Sorry, Teach." The teacher sighed. "It's okay, you're probably tired, but try to pay attention at least." Kakashi nodded. The teacher went back to teaching. As Kakashi stood there, he noted that his hands were small, soft, and nothing like what they had been before dying. He truly had gone back in time. But how far, though? "Excuse me, Teach, but can I ask a question quick?" The teacher looked back. "What is it, Kakashi?" "What is today's date?" The teacher seemed confused. "Kakashi, are you sure you're all right?" Kakashi repeated the question. The teacher would respond. It was then that Kakashi realized what day it was. "Today is the day that everything changed," he said. He grabbed up his backpack and his jacket quickly. "Kakashi, where are you going?" the teacher demanded. "Sorry, Teach. Something just cropped up. I'll be back soon. I gotta go." Before the teacher had a chance to say no, Kakashi was gone. He was bolting out of the academy. Looking back at Hokage Rock, he noted that there were only 3 faces on it, as opposed to the 9 he was used to. The village looked less than developed. It wasn't some dream, nor was it anything else. He had really traveled back in time. "Where's home?" he questioned. He searched his memories, looking for the home that he grew up in, not the one he lived in for most of his life thereafter. Finding it in his own head, Kakashi rushed out in that direction. Passing through the falling leaves of an otherwise beautiful fall day, he rushed into the door and fell into the arms of his father. "Kakashi, what are you doing home?" In this moment, Kakashi felt like a child again. It hurt so much. "Dad, please," he said as he hid his face in his father's back. Sakumo pulled Kakashi around front. "Kakashi, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" his father asked with a sincere look of concern upon his face. "You're going to kill yourself, aren't you?" Kakashi said, unable to open his eyes. Sakumo was shocked. He had never told anyone these plans, nor had he written them down, so how did Kakashi know about them? "Please, Dad, don't. I still need you," Kakashi said as he fell back into his father's arms. "Kakashi, who told you I was going to kill myself?" "You did," Kakashi said. "You told me, and I saw you do it. I couldn't stop you, and I couldn't tell you how it made me feel because you were gone. It hurt so much, and I never got to say goodbye." Sakumo held his wailing son in his arms. Kakashi had not given off emotion like this in a long time, or maybe he had. It was a complicated thing that happened to him, but whatever it was, now, despite his emotional growth, he had returned to tears. He was breaking the first rule in the Shinobi Handbook, and this should have been impossible as he had been the Hokage, the highest possible rank of ninja. Despite his experience, Kakashi couldn't control himself. As his tears flowed, he begged his father for his life, begging the great ninja Sakumo Hantake to spare the one life Kakashi needed the most, his father's. Sakumo, filled with regret, having not anticipated just how much pain this might cause his son, completely tossed away the idea. "What was I thinking?" he asked himself. "I thought I was doing something good for him, but if his emotional response is like this, then I can't do it." Feeling the dagger he had strapped behind him, Sakumo took it off and tossed it away. "I'm not going anywhere, Kakashi. I'm not going to leave you." Kakashi and Sakamoto from that point on spent the rest of the day together. Kakashi had become clingy, but just imagine his position if you will. Imagine the person you love most being taken away from you for the rest of your life, but then getting the chance to go back and save them. Sadly for many, this question is a reality, and to them I apologize, but it is exactly those people who would understand Kakashi the most here. A strange love and longing mixed with a deep anger. The only thing that can be used to describe such a thing is wound. A deep feeling of a cut that lacerates you on the deepest level, yet leaving no physical mark or scar. A spiritual wound. There are no words to describe the pain of that feeling. No words to explain the feeling one gets when they stop such a thing from happening. Kakashi's heart was filled with wounds, and due to this, he stayed close to his father. He hated the idea that he was somehow wrong, or that his father had somehow lied to him and was secretly planning to continue his plan. Due to this, Kakashi refused to allow Sakamoto out of his sight, even to the point that the two shared the same bed at night for the next week. Kakashi didn't even attend the academy, to which the teachers would eventually excuse him. However, despite him being excused, his scores were lowered due to absence, and this resulted in Kakashi not graduating year 1 like he had before. Instead, he was forced to wait another year, but doing so was actually good for him, as it allowed him to stick close to his friends, Obito and Rin, who were still in the academy. And when I say friends, I mean it in a very one-sided way. The only reason any true friendship existed was because Kakashi knew who they really were due to his inherited future memories. Normally, he would only get to know them through Rin, who would sort of follow him around, and Obito, who would normally follow Rin around. But this time, Kakashi was the first to introduce himself. The moment he saw Obito again, he suddenly saw in the boy's eyes the masked man who was responsible for everything bad that had happened in their lives. Well, I exaggerate a little. He was one of the reasons for all the bad things to happen. As he stood there, he found himself staring, to which Obito would simply look at him and say, "What?" questioning what it was that Kakashi was staring at him for. Kakashi could see it written on his face. The boy was offended. Kakashi was the strongest and most popular person in class, and now he was just staring at him. That's when Kakashi spoke. Sorry to bother you two. I was wondering if you would want to be friends?" Rin heard the question and jumped as if Kakashi had just offered to marry her or something. Yes, yes, yes! Kakashi had forgotten how into him she was. It seems she was a bit more obsessive than he remembered. She was very much like Sakura in this case, but that being said, Kakashi wasn't interested in entering a romantic relationship with her. Maybe he would have been, but not since he remembered that Obito had a deep connection with her. Obito crushed so hard, no pun intended. Obito pined for the girl in the same way Naruto had at one time pined for Sakura, except this time it wasn't superficial. Unlike Naruto, Obito hadn't crushed on Rin because of the need to feel superior. He crushed on her regardless, whether he felt inferior or not. Rin was always the prize, either for being the best shinobi or being absolute trash. Either way, all Obito cared about was getting Rin to see him as he was. Kakashi thought back to the future he had already lived, something somewhat disgraceful. It was upon the day that Obito died that Rin had confessed her love to Kakashi. Well, they thought he had died. After everything Obito had done, Rin simply never knew. She never knew how much Obito liked her, and due to this, she threw herself at Kakashi in the most tragically innocent way possible. But now there was a chance, and Kakashi wanted to help Obito. Kakashi was a different person these days. The benefit of hindsight being 20/20 meant that now his future sight was also 20/20. Kakashi was going to be a better friend this time, and he knew it. I was just wondering if we could be friends. Why would the cool kid ever want anything to do with us commoners, Obito said. Kakashi forgot how insufferable Obito was at this age, but he swallowed it. Because I just want friends. You could choose to be friends with anyone. Why us? Hush, Obito, Rin said. Sure, Kakashi, we'll be your friends. Kakashi looked at Obito, who shook his head and looked away. Kakashi could sense what Obito was thinking. He's trying to steal my girl, isn't he? No, Kakashi was not. He was telling the truth when he said he just wanted friends. Kakashi had spent many a night this past week looking at the ceiling, thinking about where he came from and the implications of everything he could do here. Normally, it was a common decision when time travel was introduced in stories for the person capable of this feat to simply stay back and not do anything with it. However, Kakashi, despite understanding the logic of this, couldn't help but wonder what might change if he did take advantage of this. Was there a possibility that he might mess up the happy ending he had? Yeah, but there was also a possibility that he could make a better ending too. What purpose would there be in simply reliving the exact same life he's already lived? He was offered a chance to make things different, and already he was happy because he saved the life of his father. Now he wanted to save a few more lives and see what might come of it. Kakashi would become friends with Obito and Rin. Obito was the least likely to open up to him, due to Obito considering Kakashi to be a romantic rival in his eternal bid for Rin Nohara. But Kakashi attempted to be as kind and loving as possible, trying to ensure that he and Obito would become closer friends. To that end, Kakashi would lower his grades so he could stay on this team. Kakashi had in the past been on many teams before Obito and Rin caught up to him, but he wasn't sure if he could replicate such a complicated group of scenarios, and instead opted to cut all of that out and just make himself seem dumber so he wouldn't graduate right away. Kakashi felt that in this way he had control over where his career would likely go. All he needed to do to go anywhere was prove himself, which he could easily do. And so he kept his true skills on the DL for the time being, opting to coast behind Rin and Obito, even often giving them gentle pushes to overcome when he felt they were struggling. Due to this, he would also make a request to Hiruzen to allow him to be on the same team as Rin and Obito, which Hiruzen would approve due to respect for Sakamo, who also vouched for how important this was to his son. They'd be put on Team Minato, just as they originally had. Of course, this started out rocky due to Minato continuing the village-old tradition of the bell test. It was a tradition Kakashi had discovered, especially of the shinobi trained in a direct line from Hashirama and Tobirama. A team was only functional if it was capable of teamwork, and this test was designed to see who was willing to give everything for the good of their village, and for the good of their other teammates. And while Kakashi respected this test, he found it personally redundant, due to having prior knowledge of everything that would happen in the future. He knew Rin was a patriot, willing to even kill herself to protect the village, and he knew that Obito was willing to sacrifice his own safety to save Kakashi. And as for Kakashi, well, humbly speaking, it took him a very long time to understand the importance of a team, but he had eventually picked it up. Due to the fact that only Kakashi knew what the future held, he decided to play along anyway, and even influence his team to understand what this mission was about. As they took a break from tracking Minato, Kakashi spoke. "You know, there's only 2 bells," he said. The group seemed saddened by this. "That means only 2 of us can pass, and the 3rd is sent back to the academy." The group nodded. Despite that, Kakashi attempted to bring hope back to them. "Who we send back, we can decide later, but for the sake of our team, we have to assume that the person who will be sent back is ourselves. And due to that, we gotta fight like a dog in the streets to ensure at the very least our other friends succeed. After all, that's the point of being a shinobi," Kakashi said. "Not everyone goes home, and what's important isn't your own personal goals, but the team goals, and the lives of your teammates. I think that's what this test is trying to teach us. So we'll play evens and odds for it later, but for now we should all do our best, if for no other reason than to help the others with their own career at our own expense." The team nodded in solemn understanding. "For the team," Obito said as he put his hand into the circle. "For the team," Rin said, her hand joining Obito's. Kakashi put his hand over all 3 and spoke. "For the team." They would break and then continue their mission. Of course, Kakashi was slightly cheating here because he knew what the outcome would be and what was required to reach it. On top of that, Kakashi's memories brought experience, which brought with it similar powers as to what he had before, which technically meant Kakashi was Jonin level. He had enough chakra and enough control to ensure that many of the techniques he had copied the years before with the Sharingan from his past go-through of this life were still possible. Kakashi had to lay down a bit though as to not become suspicious, and to not rip the spotlight away from Obito and Rin, who he knew needed to rely on their own power instead of his. After all, he didn't know what had happened to cause him to relive his own life over again. He didn't know if it was temporary, or if any of the actions he took here might actually change the future, and possibly lead to his own untimely death. Whatever happened though, he wanted Rin and Obito to have the strength to make a good shinobi career without him. So he laid back and allowed them the chance to get the bells without him. Of course, they all failed. They were going up against the freaking yellow Flash of the Leaf, one of the very few shinobi in Konoha to ever get an international run-on-site order from every military in the world. Kakashi, however, knew that, because of how they had worked together, Minato would select them officially as his own personal team of genin, which worked out well for them. From here on, their training remained the same, their missions remained the same, and their lives remained relatively unchanged. Kakashi would quickly become a Chunin, while Obito would be defeated by Might Guy. However, 1 year later, Obito would also become a Chunin. As per the original schedule of events, Kakashi was supposed to become a Jonin on the same day as Obito became a Chunin, but due to his desire to give Obito his moment in the sun, Kakashi stalled his upgrade for his friend's sake. They all went out and celebrated the new Chunin on the team. Obito never knew this stuff, nor how out of the way Kakashi had gone for him, and even as Kakashi looked back on it, he could tell he had changed. Not that he was being braggadocious, but simply stating an objective observation. In the past, he wouldn't have given 3 craps about whether Obito had graduated to the next level or not, and even in that past, he had not cared or even known that Obito had passed the Chunin exams. But at this point, Kakashi was glad to simply step back and watch, like a spectator to his own life. Compassion was something that had rubbed off on Kakashi from Obito. It pained Kakashi to know that Obito could potentially lose that part of him that Kakashi loved most, but he determined in his heart that he wouldn't let Obito lose his innocence. As you might expect, the Third Shinobi World War was triggered, and once more children are sent out to the battlefield. In the 50 or more years since Hashirama and Madara had set out to build the village in hopes of never seeing children fight again, nothing had changed, and child soldiers were still a thing. In reality, it would be viewed as a war crime, but such conventions that existed in the real world did not exist in the past, even though they could and should have. No life was safe, and the worst part about the war was that every child that went in died. Maybe not literally, but in a sense of innocence, it was true. The things that children saw when they entered the war left them without their childhood, turning them into adults right then and there. The world was cruel, and it gave no time to the purest of these to grow accustomed to its torturous side. Kakashi, due to his strange return, was practically born without his innocence, but the same was not true for his friends, and he hoped to at least in some way preserve who they were up to that point. It was during this war that the trio saw much action, but it was only at the end that the 3 would come head to head with fate. This was the point in Kakashi's life where everything changed. Sakamo's death had changed Kakashi forever, but Obito's death and eventual rebirth as Tobi had changed everything forever on a worldwide scale. And right now, Kakashi had the chance to stop it. Their team was given the special mission to destroy Kanabi Bridge. Kakashi had yet to feel so much pressure or anxiety in quite some time. Even as Hokage, he didn't feel like this. Searching the deeper parts of his heart, he assumed that this was caused by post-traumatic stress. He had been scarred by the things he'd experienced, and now he was reliving those moments. Despite that, he calmed himself by telling himself that everything would change. Everything would be okay. Despite saying those things to himself, he found himself truly appalled when things actually started going in the opposite direction again. Listen up. Because of an emergency on another front, I can't help you with the mission. So I'm leaving Kakashi in charge since he's the only other Jonin in the group. Listen to him and follow his orders the same way you would follow mine. The team would agree, and Minato would leave. So what's the first thing we do, boss? Obito asked. Kakashi looked around. We are all well acquainted with the plan, so I feel like it's a better idea to stick to it rather than change anything. If we set out now and keep pace, we should make good time, and we'll be able to complete the mission on schedule. So let's get going. From there, they continued toward their mission. All the while, everything weighed on Kakashi's mind. He was more than ready to defend Rin. If he could keep her from being captured, everything would be okay, but he couldn't help but feel like something was missing. As they came around to a certain river, they'd be attacked by the Iwanin, Kako, and Taiseki, with Taiseki using his ability to bend light around him to sneak up behind Rin. However, before he could grab her, Kakashi, remembering this technique, engaged him. Obito would take on Kako by himself as well, but that thing that Kakashi couldn't help but feel like was missing cropped up back again. There was a third member on their team, and due to the circumstances, including Kakashi never inventing the Chidori or planning to use it, fate had seemingly changed, and Mahiru had not died prior. This meant he was still able to kidnap Rin when Taiseki failed to. The group disengaged. By the time Kakashi and Obito had realized, it was far too late. Rin had been captured. Obito, in a rage, attempted to run after him, but Kakashi stopped him. Wait! Obito looked back. You're not seriously telling me that we gotta leave Rin behind, are you? Kakashi shook his head. No, not by any means. But what I'm saying is we need to take this seriously, okay? We can't be ruled by emotions. If we let our anger control us, we'll make mistakes, and someone will die. So just stop, take a deep breath, and calm yourself. I know you're nervous for her, and I understand. I'm scared for her too. But if we want to increase our chances of saving her, we need to be in total control, okay? Obito thought about it and understood. Alright, you're right. Sorry. Kakashi pat Obito on the back. No need to apologize. So what's the plan, Kakashi? Obito asked. Well, this is a very mountainous region, and our foes are Iwanin, which means that they're going to likely head for the nearest mountain to create a cave and hide until they can finish interrogating Rin. That one guy can turn invisible, which means it's hard to see him. However, he can see us just fine, which makes him the perfect watchman, so expect that he'll be likely the one that we'll encounter first. We'll need to be ready for him and take him out before he sees us. If he's invisible, how do we do that? Obito asked. His technique relies on him using his own chakra to bend photons around him, which makes it seem like light is passing straight through him, but it's not. It's going around him, and when it does, it distorts the direction of the photons, which causes a distortion in the lights. In other words, he'll still be visible, but he'll look like glass, or like the road on a hot summer day. Kinda like a man made of crystal water walking. That's where your Sharingan comes in. We can use... I don't have Sharingan, Obito said. Kakashi looked at him blankly. You don't? Obito shook his head. It hasn't awakened yet, at least. Kakashi nodded. Right, sorry. He had forgotten that Obito had awakened his Sharingan in this battle, not before it. That was a brutal mistake, but that's okay. Kakashi had an idea. Then we'll simply lower visibility. Won't that make it harder for us to spot him? Obito asked. Kakashi shook his head. No, you see, it'll make it harder to see us. If we use the hiding and mist technique as well, even though it'll make it harder to actually see him, his movements will disturb the mist, or possibly even displace it, which will give us a more visible shadow to attack. Obito nodded. Do you know the hiding and mist technique? Obito asked. Kakashi nodded. I have some techniques saved up for moments like this. Obito smiled. Good, then that's what we'll do. They then followed Kakashi's plan. Kakashi hadn't been entirely truthful with Obito. He had made mention of where they would likely be, but it wasn't a surprise to Kakashi as he remembered where this cave was. To that end, Kakashi would easily find Rin and the Iwanin. As soon as he got there, he cast it. Ninja art, hiding in mist jutsu. Suddenly, the water from the nearby lake began to bubble up and create a thick fog that covered everything. Taiseki was indeed around, but he couldn't be entirely certain if this meant that they were being attacked by the enemy. After all, it was a hot summer day, and the cold water on the lake mixed with the rain that had fallen only a little while earlier could likely cause something like this. He scouted the area, searching for anything that might stand out as suspicious. As he moved through, he didn't see Kakashi and Obito in the trees. Did you see that? Kakashi asked. That was the Iwanin that could turn invisible. Wow, Kakashi, this is actually working. You doubted me, Kakashi said with a smile. Kakashi then pulled his white light chakra saber that his father had given him. Now let me try something. He would summon 2 shadow clones and disguise one of them as Obito. He then sent both clones out into the middle of the opening between where the entrance to the cave was and the tree line. Kakashi, what are you doing? He's gonna see it. That's the point, Kakashi said. We're just kids. He doesn't expect anything out of us. That underestimation is a weakness. We're going to exploit it. Suddenly, a vapor trail tracked back behind the shadow clones. A shadow in the shape of a man stood there, distorting the mist around him, drawing closer to the two. Kakashi saw a blade pulled. Now, he said. Together, Kakashi and Obito jumped out of the trees and landed on Taiseki, Kakashi planting his blade into the man's back. Taiseki let out a grunt before his eyes rolled up in his head. Kakashi got off of him. Now we need to kill the other 2 as well, and we can make our way out of here. Sneaking through the mist, they would make for the entrance of the cave. Upon entering, they saw the 2 men standing around an unconscious Rin. It was upon seeing this that Obito lost his composure and rushed into the cave. Kakashi tried to call out to him to wait, but by that time Mahiro and Kako had already seen him. Obito rushed in to attack Kako, but Mahiro came in from behind. Damn it, he's gotta get himself killed, Kakashi said. Purple lightning, he shouted. Raising his hand, he fired a bolt of purple lightning from his hand at Mahiro, debilitating him, leaving him on the ground. Kakashi then joined the fight with Kako. He and Obito pushed Kako back, but considering that Kakashi wasn't messing around, Kako had to deal with the full power of a former Hokage. That wasn't good for Kako, and resulted in him being eviscerated by the 2 boys. They freed Rin. Rin, Obito shouted. Rin, wake up! She opened her eyes. Obito? Kakashi? Come on, we're getting you out of here, they shouted. It was then that they realized that Mahiro was still alive. He could hardly move, but he wasn't going to allow them to escape without taking his revenge. Die, you punks, he said as he activated the failsafe bombs that would destroy their base. Get out, Kakashi shouted. He began to run, Rin and Obito as well. This was the moment that Kakashi had feared most since he rescued his father. This was the moment of great importance that he had to deal with next. He had played this scene out in his head so many times that he had pretty much worked it down to a science, to muscle memory. One of the stones that he thought would fall one place fell in another, causing Kakashi to catch his foot on it. Looking, he saw Rin and Obito get out. They looked back. "Kakashi!" they shouted. In that moment, Kakashi made peace with it. Maybe he would die here, and if so, that was okay. He had managed to protect his father, protect Obito, and now Rin might also be protected. "Goodbye," he said in a whisper. It was then that he felt a pair of hands wrap around him. Kakashi opened his eyes to see Obito. His eyes now shifted into Sharingan. "Obito, no!" Kakashi shouted in horror, realizing what was about to happen. "What are you doing? Stop!" "I'm saving you, you dork!" "You don't have to do this, you'll die," Kakashi said. "What was it you said?" "Not everyone goes home, and what's important isn't your own personal goals, but the team goals, and the lives of your teammates." Obito looked at him for a moment. "Sounds like something I would say," Obito said as he threw Kakashi out, the cave collapsing on him. "Obito!" Kakashi shouted. The boulders collapsed on him. Kakashi and Rin then found themselves surrounded by Iwanin. Kakashi stood there before them all. He activated his purple lightning. As he did so, he knew that each of these shinobi were probably no more than Chunin level. Even during his younger years, he was able to kill the most of them by himself, though he ran out of gas before he could finish the job. However, in his mind right now, he was older, stronger. He may have less chakra than he did in his older years, but the chakra control he had never went away, and he was prepared to use all of his skills to end them quickly. He needed to save Obito, and so he fought. His skills now were far greater than they ever had been, even without the Sharingan. With them, he not only killed all the enemy shinobi, but he did it in a timely fashion, faster than what he had done years earlier. His speed and ferocity startled even Rin. With all of the enemies dead, though he was splattered with blood, Kakashi ran to the rock pile. He began to pull the stones off. "Kakashi," Rin said. "Help me get these boulders off of Obito," Kakashi said. "Kakashi, Obito's dead," Rin said. "I can't sense his chakra anymore." Kakashi shook his head. "No, that's not true. He's just buried too deep. We can save him." "He's gone," Rin said. Kakashi turned around. "Don't tell me that. I'm the one who's lived through this already, not you. I know he survives." Kakashi turned around. "If you won't help me out, then I'll do it myself." He kept fighting against the stones, attempting to pull them free and expose his wounded friend. After many minutes of digging, Kakashi saw it. He saw Obito's hand sticking out of the rubble. It wasn't moving. Kakashi fell to his knees as water began to run from his eyes. "It's true," he said before letting out a snort. "He really is dead. I was too late. I failed him." It was then that he noticed something. Obito's hand twitched. It seemed to be searching for someone's hand. "No, look. He's alive! How is that possible? His body's caught under tons of rocks. He should be crushed to stains right now." Kakashi didn't know how. He just knew that he was grateful. He reached out to take Obito's hand to console him. However, when he did so, his hand passed clean through. Huh? He tried again. Kakashi's hand passed through again. He's intangible. He survived because his body passed through the rocks, but that's Kamui, a Mangekyo Sharingan ability. We both awakened the Mangekyo when we saw Rin die. How is he manifesting it now? He began to wonder if it was possible that Obito awakened the Mangekyo here, and that Kakashi didn't have access to it until he witnessed an event like that. There was no actual evidence for this though. Maybe in a moment of intense stress, Obito somehow summoned forth his Mangekyo's power without manifesting his Mangekyo in full. Regardless, Kakashi kept digging. He managed to get the boulders off of Obito along with Rin, who upon hearing he was alive began to frantically dig as well. They eventually freed Obito's body. Looking down at it, Kakashi could see that the very fact he was still alive was a miracle. Obito, now in enough shock that he couldn't feel pain, spoke. "Be honest with me, Kakashi. Does it look bad?" It did indeed look bad. So bad, in fact, that if we were to show it, it would probably need to be pixelated. Kakashi shook his head. "Nah, you're good. Just a little banged up." Obito chuckled a little. "Is that why I'm looking in two different directions at the same time?" Kakashi shook his head. "No, pretty sure that's a Sharingan power." It was then that Minato appeared. "Y'all finished the... Oh, hell. Minato-sensei," Obito said. "Can you do me a favor and kill me?" Minato shook his head. "No, Obito. I'm not going to kill you. If you can speak at all, then it means it's still possible for you to survive." It's a long way back. I don't want to feel all that pain and then still die, Obito said. Then it's a good thing your master is flying Raijin. He walked over, checked to make sure his spine is still in shape. Rin, having gathered herself, walked over and felt. It feels like his spine was spared, but the rest of him's still pretty messed up. I don't know if he can survive a flying Raijin teleportation too, Rin said. He'll have to. It's his only chance, Minato said. He knelt down. He put his hand on Obito's good leg before offering a hand to Rin. She took it. Kakashi then saw the look in Obito's eyes and reached down to grab his hand. You're gonna be okay, Kakashi said. Suddenly, they teleported. There was a jolt and a jump. Apparently, he wasn't in as much shock as Kakashi thought, or perhaps the pain just overwhelmed it. But suddenly, Obito became physically conscious of his ruined body and let out a cry. Ah! As soon as they landed, Rin rushed off to find a doctor. They rushed Obito into surgery. The first one was merely to stabilize him. The second was reconstructive. It was pretty much a given that his shinobi career was over, but at least he'd survive, and at the very least would maintain most of his original appearance, minus some of the scarring. Honestly, whoever the doctors were at that moment who helped him, Kakashi was sure that they ought to have studied under Tsunade. They were that good. Despite Obito being wounded, Minato managed to complete the mission. Obito would recover, but his movements were limited to needing crutches for the rest of his life. He hated the idea of that, but it was better than using a wheelchair. Kakashi stuck with him the entire time, as did Rin. It was after this ordeal that Rin took Kakashi to the side and told him her true feelings. I'm touched that you went through so much to rescue me, she said. You made that decision when, according to the Shinobi Handbook, you were supposed to leave me to die. All I did was what my father raised me to. You really should be thanking Obito instead. He was all in on it. Rin nodded. I did thank him, but I also feel the need to tell you that I think I've fallen in love with you, Kakashi, she said. Kakashi looked into her eyes. She was a beautiful girl, and he would be lucky to have her, but there was that feeling in his heart. Sorry, Rin, I just don't feel the same, he said. In truth, he did, but he also knew Obito did as well. Are you sure? She asked. You might eventually feel the same. No need to cast it off all at once, she said. Kakashi shook his head. No, I'm pretty certain that I'll never feel the same. I'm sorry. That statement might have been too blunt because she began to tear up. Kakashi needed to salvage this quickly. I see you too much like a sister, Rin. I can't see myself changing that. Anyone would be lucky to have you, myself included. I'm just not interested. And I probably won't be because I like you as a friend, and I don't want to mess that up by making you more than a friend, and then just something happening and ruining that. Rin looked down and away, blinking away a couple tears. Yeah, that's okay, she said as she quickly wiped the tears away and forced a smile. Sorry, I guess I was just in the moment. I didn't mean to make things awkward. She let out a little giggle that was about as real as a plastic flower. Kakashi felt like an absolute dirtbag. He broke her heart, and because of that, his own heart was broken. But there was someone else that loved her, and he was the one who deserved her most. He sacrificed his career and body for her, and if anyone should have the right to love her, it was him. As time passed, Kakashi would continue to work as a shinobi with Rin, but as they were completing a mission, something went wrong. Rin ended up getting captured by Kiri forces. She managed to get away, but she possessed a seal on her that would break when she entered the village. It was designed to release the Three Tails on Konoha and devastate it from within. But Kakashi knew that she had it in her. Don't worry, we'll deal with the tailed beast later. How did you know? She asked. Kakashi hadn't thought about that before he said anything. Rin spoke again. I had thought about something you said earlier. How, after Obito was crushed, you said something to the effect of you had seen the future and I hadn't. How did you know Obito was alive? I had thought it was just blind faith, but you also seem to know that I'm a Jinchuriki now. Kakashi spoke. I don't think now is a good time to talk about it, he said. I think now is the only time, Kakashi. Kakashi sighed. It's because I seem to be reliving my life all over again, he said. I seem to know everything that's going to happen. Because I do, he said. I can't explain it any other way. That's an incredible power, Kakashi, Rin said. That could change so much. Kakashi nodded. It can, but it's dangerous, which is why nobody can know about it. If I change too much, or the wrong things, I can actually nullify this ability, and furthermore, I could create a bad future. So please, you have to promise me that you won't tell anyone. If you do, it could end. The ability? Rin asked. Kakashi looked over. Everything. Eventually, the Mist Shinobi caught up to them, but they only offered token resistance, considering that they were never meant to recapture Rin. Kakashi gets away with her, and they'd stop outside the village, where he would call for the assistance of others to come and reseal the beast inside of Rin in hopes of keeping her alive. This procedure would be successful, and Rin was able to enter the village without an issue, something that Kiri didn't expect to happen. And with the loss of their tailed beast, this seemed to be the final nail in the coffin for the Third Shinobi World War, though it did seem that Kumo wasn't completely finished yet. But at that point, when it was just between two villages, could it really be called a world war? As the Third Shinobi World War winded down to a close, Kakashi felt like he was at peace, having rescued all of the people he cared about. But he knew that there were still some things he had to do before his job was done. And as peace began to slowly return to Konoha, as the world settled down from the flames, a brand new interest was poured onto the lives of those who survived. Just as the end of World War II brought home the boys who once were too nervous to make that decision finally had become men and were ready to take that next step into their lives, the same was true in Konoha. There was quite the population boom, and many a new name and status were funneled through the Hokage's office for approval. Spring was here, and you know what they say should be in the air. That's right, love. And out of the many people who craved love, there was one who was beginning to think he might never have it. That's right, our boy Obito Uchiha. He spent most of his days at his grandmother's house. Chronic pain was the due he paid. A veteran at such a young age, he was now sure his life would never be the same, and Kakashi felt quite bad about that. Kakashi had set out to ensure that nothing like this would ever happen, but fate had snuck up on him, lying in wait, as if the very concept of failure had locked in on him. Kakashi had a chance to change everything with Obito, and instead had rolled a nat 20. Looking toward the future he had left behind, Kakashi wondered if Obito then, with a half-Zetsu body, was also in chronic pain all his life, or if the cells from the first Hokage implanted in him were enough to completely rid him of that pain. The tragedy of this was that Kakashi knew he could have done something different. Through fear of what might happen, he rescued Obito immediately. But Kakashi wondered what would have happened if he had left Obito to be rescued by Madara instead, just as the last time, and then simply prevented Rin's death. Perhaps Obito would have walked out with a better body. Guilt racked Kakashi's mind. His friend was still alive, but the life he now lived was of a lesser quality than the one he had before. People couldn't help but look at the scars on his face. He felt like he stood out now. He was damaged goods, and it seemed he had no direction in his life. Nowhere to go. He had no future, as the only future he ever planned was to be a shinobi, and now that was impossible. He had hoped that maybe his actions might see Rin become his, but she wasn't. Life had ripped Obito off, and though he smiled, Kakashi saw a subtle pain in there. Kakashi saw Obito in the park on most days, sitting there, his crutches propped against the bench he now sat on. Two little hellions, likely in their early to mid-teens, suddenly showed up behind him, grabbed the crutches, and tried to make off with them. Why? Were the crutches valuable? Not really. It would just be a funny prank. Obito tried to stand and give chase, but what was he supposed to do? He felt a deep pain shoot up his right leg that reverberated through his right arm and every nerve on the right side of his body. Ah! He sat back down. The kids, having realized they were going to get away, let out a laugh. That was until they ran straight into the chest of a man wearing the mask of a fox. He spoke to them. You know, I know what it's like to take something that isn't yours. In a menacing and low voice, he spoke. Thrilling, isn't it? To know you took something someone required and got away with it. Nobody could stop you, and nobody could punish you. It's at times like those that a man feels like God. The two boys were about to drop a load in their pants. Taking something that isn't ours? Kakashi spoke. Of course, the real thrill is taking something of a more metaphysical nature. A future, an ability, a life. The rush from taking something away and watching as that person learns the value of what they just lost. It fills one with a sense of superiority. Kakashi's hands gripped the two boys' shoulders tight enough that they thought they might break. Maybe I should show you what it feels like to take a life. Dying is an experience indeed, one that you can only do once in this life. Wanna try? The two boys dropped the crutches and ran off. Watching them go, Kakashi picked the crutches up and walked over to Obito. Kinda laid it on thick there at the end, Obito said. Threatening people was never my strong suit. Action over words was more your style. Nothing you said ever scared me. What you did, on the other hand. Obito laughed. Kakashi removed his mask. How are you doing, Obito? Fine, he said, waving it off. Kakashi did something unusual. He pulled his gaiter down to reveal his mouth, something that shocked Obito. Whoa, you have a face? Kakashi's lips drew up into a smile. I see you come out here all the time. Every day you come out here and sit. I like the peace, to see all the lives I managed to help save, the faces of the kids. It makes things feel worth it. Do you struggle with that? Kakashi asked in regards to Obito questioning the worth of it all. No, I never question the worthiness of my sacrifice. I'm here to enjoy the bounty of it, not to wish I never had. But if you could go back, would you have done anything differently? Obito looked over at Kakashi out of the side of his eye. And see you in a grave? Hell no. Kakashi looked down. Do you have any plans for your future? It seemed like this question was enough to cause Obito to stumble a bit. What was it you always wanted? Kakashi asked. To be a shinobi, Obito said. Kakashi nodded. Yeah, you did. But there was something more you wanted. Obito was starting to feel emotionally vulnerable. He was in such physical pain all the time. Did Kakashi have to compound upon it with emotional pain too? She's not interested in me, Kakashi. And when I look in the mirror every morning and see this, he said, his hand trailing over his ruined face, I understand why. Kakashi shook his head. You don't give Rin enough credit. She's more taken with you, he said. Kakashi nodded. She is, and I broke her heart. Me and her will never happen, and I let her know. Obito turned around quickly. And why would you do such a thing? You'd be lucky to have her, he said. Kakashi smiled softly, causing Obito to settle. I know that, Obito, but in the end, I'm not in the business of taking away the love someone else found. I don't step into someone else's territory. Besides, I've found myself to be more of a loner type. I seem to enjoy my life more unweighted by the responsibilities of a family. My love for my village suffices for that role. Obito sighed. So you turned her down because I like her then? Kakashi nodded. Indeed. He looked down and then spoke. I've seen things in you, Obito. I know you well, just how far you'll go for her. You'd die just to see her smile at your grave. You're the kind of person who offers a love that's once in a lifetime. I feel like I'd be committing the world's greatest atrocity to keep her from experiencing that, Kakashi said. You love her far more than I ever could. Rin doesn't know that, but I believe if she did, she might change her opinion. Wishful thinking, Obito said. Kakashi shrugged. I think she craves to be loved, even if she simply doesn't know. Trust me, Obito, I've already broken her heart. Even if you don't make a move on her, I never will. Had you died that day when you saved my life, I still would have refused to enter a relationship with her. I will never, under any circumstance, ever enter a romantic relationship with Rin Nohara, and she knows that now. Kakashi, I admire you standing up for me and doing what's best to help me along, but there's something very important that you aren't considering. What's that? Kakashi asked. How Rin feels about this, Obito said. Yeah, I like her a lot, and even if you have taken yourself out of that game, it still doesn't change that she prefers you to me, and that will never change. I can't just force her to choose me. That's not how love works. And I'd rather her be happy than me. I can't lock her down in a relationship she doesn't want. Kakashi rolled his eyes. You seem to be forgetting something too. Obito looked over questioningly. I never said we were forcing her into anything. What I am saying is that you should get up the gumption to ask her out. She'll either say yes or no. She's still free to do as she pleases, but even if there's a 1% chance that she'll choose you, it's still better than the 0% chance you have if you don't do anything. So just throw caution to the wind. If you want her, fight for her. That's what you gotta do. Did all your years as a shinobi teach you nothing? If you love something, sometimes you have to fight, risk, and sacrifice for it. But it's better to lose and say you tried than to never try at all. Obito looked down at his body. I'm not so sure. Kakashi stood and walked over to him. Looking him straight in the eyes, he spoke. I'm alive, Obito. Turning around, he pointed toward the kids running over there. They're alive, Obito. Imagine Kanabi Bridge was never sabotaged. Imagine Kiri never lost their tailed beast. What do you think could have happened? What if someone rescued Rin and didn't know she had a beast in her? The choice you made saved lives. A lot of lives. Perhaps you chose to fight and perhaps you lost, but are you going to tell me that you don't think it was worth it? Obito looked at the others. It was worth it. Kakashi smiled. Then you know. It's better to try and fail than it is to fail to try. Obito took a deep breath. Maybe you're right. I feel directionless. As good as it is having the government keep me up, I feel like I've got no purpose. Maybe it's time I do something about this. Kakashi smiled. Attaboy. I'll be with you the whole way. Obito would then, under Kakashi's guidance, go toward Rin. She was taking time off from her work as a shinobi to better acclimate to the three tails inside of her. She would often spend time with Kushina to learn new tactics to fight the tailed beast's urges inside of her. Kushina was a strong woman. The tailed beast inside of her was far stronger than Isobu, who was quite docile compared to Kurama. Together, they had a bond. Minato's team was always close to Kushina's heart, and so when Obito came around to ask for Rin to spend some time with him, Kushina was the first to tell Rin that she should give it a try. Rin would agree and go. Kakashi would then be approached by Kushina, who by this point was newly pregnant with her and Minato's child. Obito really likes Rin, Kakashi said. Kushina smiled. They're good together. I've never seen a heart like Obito's, really. It's so full of love. And maybe that's a dangerous thing, Kakashi thought to himself. But maybe it's good, too, he retorted in his own mind. Kushina looked over the city from the balcony from which Kakashi stood. I'm glad for him, Kakashi said. I told him he needed to take a chance with her. I agree with that, Kushina said. I see inside of Rin and Obito the same spark that exists inside Minato and I. Rin just hasn't seen it yet. It's there, she just doesn't know. I'm not much of an expert on love, Kakashi said. Maybe you know more than you think, Kushina said with a smile. Kakashi smiled too, but his mask covered it. All I know is what I read in Jiraiya-sensei's books. What about you, Kakashi? Do you not also crave a relationship like this? Kakashi took a deep breath and let it out. If I were to say I've lived 80 years in the span of these 15, would you believe me? Kushina, not knowing what Kakashi spoke of, said, war can truly change a person. Kakashi didn't elaborate further, knowing that it was best she didn't know. I'm not the marrying type, he said. I'm attracted to people with similar life experiences to me, but there's no one who shares the exact same. Kushina was confused. Kakashi continued. Not anymore, at least. But even during that time, it never worked out well. Broken people merely break other people. The scars run too deep, and in the end, pain is all that follows a relationship with me. Kushina somehow felt broken-hearted to hear this. She knew Kakashi, and though she never knew of what he was talking about, she sensed a wisdom of years in his voice. I'm sorry, Kakashi, she said. Kakashi shrugged. This doesn't mean I don't have love in my life, he said as he looked up toward the clouds. I will always remember them. And I have others who I love too. He waved his hand over the village. Konoha. That's my wife. The love of my life. It always has been and always will be. She treats me well, and in return, I give my all to protect her. I don't think I could ever love a woman like I love my village, and perhaps that's for the best. Kushina faded into a small smile. Putting her hands on his shoulders, she rested her chin on his silver hair. If that makes you happy, Kakashi, I'm happy too. If you ever do decide to search for love, please come to me and Minato. We'd love to help you. From here on, Kakashi just focused on Rin and Obito's relationship, and the longer the two spent together, the more they came to realize that they had something special. In time, Rin forgot about the feelings she had for Kakashi and began to fall for Obito. The two decided to go steady, and as time passed, Kakashi thought back on the events that would transpire. By this time, surely Madara had died of old age, but who would he bequeath his will to? Surely it had to have been Black Zetsu. So what would it be that Black Zetsu would do? Kakashi began to believe that there was no reason other than Black Zetsu for Obito to have attacked during the birth of Naruto. Surely Black Zetsu was the one delivering this information, meaning chances were he would attempt to do something about this. As the time came that Kushina was to deliver her child, she'd be taken to a safe location to do so. Rin would also be there. She had been studying intensely to become a medical nin, not just for combat purposes, but also because she loved Obito. Obito, despite his heart and strength, possessed many needs due to complications with his physical health, and being a medical nin offered her the unique position to help her love. But it also blessed her with moments like this, the ability to welcome a new life into the world. Kakashi, despite everything, insisted upon being there. He had been tasked by Minato to guard Kushina, and despite Minato himself being there, Kakashi still insisted, saying it was better for him to be here as well, just in case, and so, despite the fact that it made everyone a bit uncomfortable to have one too many men in the room, they allowed it, because after all, Kakashi was family. Kakashi kept an eye open. As Kushina began to give birth, Kakashi, hidden in his corner, waited. He thought he spotted a shadow enter the room. It was ethereal and felt as though he had just seen something supernatural, as if a demon had entered, hoping to be unseen. It gave Kakashi chills, like he had just witnessed something he wasn't supposed to witness. The Zetsu rose up in the shadow of Rin, ready to kill her as she caught the baby exiting the womb. That's when Kakashi activated his purple lightning. Minato looked over out of the corner of his eye and saw Kakashi. Questioning what he was doing, he then noticed a yellow orb floating within Rin's shadow, indicating an eye. He saw teeth form into a smile. "Rin!" Minato called as he prepared to move. He was too late though, as Zetsu prepared to kill her. Minato was in a peculiar position. He was trying to keep the seal closed on Kurama, but needed to stop the Zetsu as well. However, to do so, not only would he have to let go of the seal, risking the escape of Kurama, but he'd have to rush around Rin to stop this threat, which would take more time. Minato wasn't sure he'd be fast enough to do all of this. However, just as he panicked, Kakashi came in. His hand crackling through the air, he carved through Black Zetsu, sending him sprawling, his body lacerated. He attempted to recover. He had underestimated the threat of Konoha, having not realized Kakashi's presence until it was too late. Kakashi knew from the start Zetsu's abilities, and before Zetsu could recover, Kakashi came down on top of Zetsu and finished him with purple lightning before destroying the last remnants of his form with fire release. Zetsu was dead, and Kakashi knew that the true threat of the Akatsuki would likely be over. While Danzo was a threat to the good Akatsuki that Yahiko had formed, Kakashi knew that the reason why no help came for Nagato and Yahiko was due to Obito killing reinforcements. But now that Obito was here, he surmised that it was possible that Yahiko could survive. News of the betrayal of Hanzo would reach the Akatsuki before they would even be met by him, and thus the threat of the rogue shinobi group would likely be quelled. Without the death of Minato, the Uchiha massacre would never occur, and many a happy ending would be granted. It was after this that, though Orochimaru had committed many acts against the people due to his human experimentation, he would be caught, captured, and punished due to Minato being the one to find him instead of Hiruzen, whose heart was too large to kill his own student. Time would continue to pass, and Obito and Rin would eventually marry, having their own child. Kakashi would remain in the Anbu until 12 years after the birth of Naruto, where he'd retire in hopes of becoming the teacher of Team 7. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno, all three would graduate the academy, and be taken under the wings of Kakashi, who would raise them and teach them with all the wisdom and knowledge he had accumulated over his many lifetimes as a shinobi. The Land of Waves mission would occur just the same as before, though Kakashi was sure to give it a more happy ending. Being at the level now that he didn't have to kill Zabuza, he would spare the rogue shinobi, and instead offer him and Haku a place in Konoha, along with amnesty that he could acquire from his master, the 4th Hokage. Kakashi promised a place for Haku to grow into an honorable shinobi, and for Zabuza to continue his work as shinobi in a more welcoming environment. Zabuza, under most circumstances, would have said no, but upon realizing Haku's needs, would agree. However, after settling in, Zabuza would disappear into the night. He could not bring himself to serve any village truly save Kiri, but he refused to rob Haku of his future. Zabuza would return to Kiri alone to continue his coup against Yagura, but it would fail and Zabuza would die. The Chunin exams would go off without a hitch, and Naruto would be sent to train with Jiraiya. Due to no Akatsuki or Orochimaru, Sasuke never leaves, Gaara is never captured, Rasa never dies, Pain never assaults the village, and there is no 4th Shinobi World War. War with Suna, who's in massive debt after their village is left without much work, appears to be on the horizon, but due to Minato's skillful leadership, this is avoided, and a deal is worked out in which Suna lowers their prices below Konoha's to a small degree, and Konoha offers to help advertise work for them. As Kakashi stands there looking over the village, he feels as though his mission is complete and prepares to enjoy the rest of his life. And as he already knows that he will grow sick by the age of 89, he decides to be proactive and keep his physical health in check. By the time he reaches his late 80s, they discover the cancer early and manage to eradicate it, although this only buys Kakashi another 10 years, as he would die of a heart attack at the age of 98. But considering his age and all the things he experienced, he feels very blessed, and finally is allowed to pass on into the afterlife. And so ends the story of Kakashi and his chance to do things differently all over again. Kakashi stands at the very heart of the Naruto story, and his decisions can truly change things for the better, as the points in time that he was witness to are the events that set the story up from the beginning. Him possessing knowledge of the future changes everything, and due to his positioning and wisdom, he can finesse the future into a more positive light. But what do you think? Did you enjoy the video? If so, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified about our other videos as they drop. And while you wait for those, check out these other videos from our channel. Until next time, peace out.